Just introduce, please, yourself.
You want me to start?
Yes, please.
Hi, yeah, my name is Dennis O'Neill. I'm the CEO of O'Neill Capital Advisors. My background is over 25 years of investment banking experience. I've raised a couple of $1 billion in early stage capital, taken dozens of companies public, and now I've been super active in the digital securities and crypto, in the crypto space for probably the past 4 or 5 years. I've spoken at 75 conferences globally, many of them in Asia and Europe on private equity, venture capital, and blockchain and crypto.
Okay.
Oh, did you want me to? Okay.
Yeah, Sergey.
Yeah, hi everyone. Oh, my name is Sergey Sichenko. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I've been involved in blockchain for a few years now. Our main focus and interest is employment and payments from person to person as wages, and from companies to people as wages, basically HR and blockchain. And we've been trying to get ahead in that. So we have a number of startups in the space and just plowing along, creating by the world, hopefully.
Thank you, Sergey. Thank you, Dennis. Daniel.
Yeah, on my side, my background's in management consulting and finance. That eventually led me to fintech, and then more recently, I entered the blockchain space probably like 4 years ago. I'm working for Symbiont, which is a permission blockchain company, and then also my background in quantitative finance leads me also to constantly entertain different algorithmic trading strategies.
Okay, guys, let's talk about predictions. What's going on with Bitcoin? What's going on with election?
So I'm gonna let me jump off here to say that, like, first of all, I'm not gonna make a prediction, but what I'm gonna say is almost like an "I told you so." That for everybody that says that that crypto continues to be uncorrelated with markets, no, I'm gonna say it once and again. The more institutional adoption there is, the more Bitcoin is gonna be correlated with markets. Right now, the market, both like traditional markets and crypto markets, are rallying, not because Biden won or because people think Trump is not winning. That, I don't think that's the reason. It's simply because the uncertainty is gone. So the market is reacting in a way that is risk on, which means now like all risky assets go up, and that includes Bitcoin. The moment the market like gets uncertain, the first thing that's going to sell is all the risky assets. So high yield bonds, emerging markets, and cryptocurrencies. So we're seeing a rally as the uncertainty just wanes off.
Interesting.
Yeah, I have a comment. I mean, basically what I'm saying here is that the most important thing that's actually been taking place over the past, I'd say, a couple of months here is the decoupling of Bitcoin from just the large US indexes, because when the markets were going down and they were under pressure, Bitcoin was holding its own or it was moving up. And that is probably the most important thing that's taking place right now, because I think that these markets, there is a lot of cash out there. It's not going into, these high-tech companies that are trading at 100 times, price earnings. I think that the U.S. election, Trump was anti-crypto, security token offerings. He was all about protecting the big banks and the investment banks on their monopoly on that side of the market. But so I think that, I don't think that Biden's going to be no joyride, but I think that he'll be significantly better than what Trump has been putting forward. I'm on, I'm part of DCA Global, which is a self-regulatory body for the crypto industry globally. That we've spoken with multiple people from the SEC, and I think that people are going to have to be replaced at the SEC. For this to move forward, there are people there that are doing everything possible not to give any clear guidance or forward for these markets.
Yeah, if you just let me like piggyback on that comment, I agree that Trump was against Bitcoin, well, cryptocurrency in general. However, his moves, I mean, as much as he can write and tweet anything he wants, his moves were actually not really showing that. Mainly for several reasons. During his administration, we got at the CFTC, we had Heath Tarver, and he's the one that approved the Ether futures and a few other things. We had Brian Brooks as a controller, which has been doing like amazing things for crypto. And actually, the one thing that Trump was doing inadvertently, most likely, which was appoint Jay Clayton from the SEC to be part of the New York Southern District. That would actually mean that he would leave the SEC, and then most likely, a lot of people were thinking Hester Pierce, known as CryptoMom, would be the one who would become the chairwoman. And at that point, that would be like super positive. So that's why I think the crypto market is rallying, not because Biden or Trump were good or bad for crypto. It's just because of the uncertainty is now gone. But I think if Trump would have stayed and he would have pushed forward that appointment of Jay Clayton to the New York Southern District, then Hester Pierce would have been like a huge win for the crypto market.
Well, let me just say one quick thing, and then Sergey, you can hop in. Yeah, I've spoke to Hester Pierce on multiple on two different occasions, and if she presented at our SRO that we're kicking off here in Chicago, and as pro as that she is, the rest of the people, the powers that be, are not, and she is not getting any movement there, and she was couple of months ago, she was beyond herself because she couldn't get none of these ETFs were getting approved. So I think that, there needs to be sweeping change at the SEC, because they, basically at the end of the day, the people at the SEC, the top people all will work for the large banks, or they just left the large banks. So their interests are aligned with the large banks.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's that classic revolving door.
Exactly. I mean, it's it's a puppet regime that protects the large banks at all costs.
Yeah, now we should. Yeah, that's. Now, what do you call it? Thoughts about what do you call it? Uncorrupt establishment really comes to mind. So, but regardless, I mean, Bitcoin is through the roof, and I think, to tell the truth, I think people are realizing that we get into another crisis. Like the majority of people, I mean, the ones in the industry already kind of realized that, and a lot of them are using the instrument that wasn't there before in the previous crisis, which is crypto and BTC in general. And since BTC is an entry point for a lot of people as opposed to altcoins, that's why BTC is rallying ahead. And you can't forget that Ethereum 2.0 has just released a node and a test and gone live. So that's obviously well. So to tell the truth, regardless of what's happening with the presidential election, I guess the Bitcoin and crypto are the clear winners, at least in the short term.
Yeah, and I think also another dynamic that's going on, there's been a slight cool down on the DeFi market, and that's also where you're seeing the drop in the gas prices in Ethereum. And I wonder if that sell-off, I guess that lower usage in Ethereum is actually benefiting Bitcoin. I haven't looked into the correlations, but that may also be some
probably. All those money in the pools have to go somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And US dollar, I mean, there's a lot of USDT and USDC out there, and since US dollar is falling in relation to most other currencies and markets, I mean, people, it's not supposed to go for BTC.
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say is that, I mean, the U.S. printed 22% of all their currency this year. So, I mean, you're talking about that's massive dilution on the actual currency itself. And now that you have PayPal that stepped in, is going to opening up, it's giving more credibility at large. And I think that the institutional investors, on a more broader sense, in a more significant way, are seeing the scarcity factor within Bitcoin and the utility within Bitcoin. And now it is, something, if there is a confluence of different things that are happening now that seems to be bringing a lot of demand to Bitcoin. I mean, a lot of big people out there endorsing it that would never have done it in the past.
So actually, Dennis, let me bounce something off of you, because this is something that I've been looking in a different way. When we look at the US dollar, even back in 2008, when we had the huge stimulus packages, like the dollar didn't lose strength versus the rest of the global currencies. because we were still like for lack of a better expression, the worst house in a shitty neighborhood. So it was like, where else are you gonna park your money? So and right now we are, because of the pandemic, kind of like in a similar situation. Even though in this case we are the shittiest house and our house is on fire to begin with, but it's still the place where people are gonna park money. So externally, it seems like there's no downward pressure on the dollar because people are not selling dollars because of that, because everything else is dropping. And actually, domestically, we have stagnant wage growth. So we're not seeing like inflation pressures yet. So I think like at least like in terms of just like FX demand factors, I think the demand, despite the huge additional supply, as you mentioned, is not yet going to depress the price, because the whole world, like, we can print as much dollars as we want and the whole world keeps buying it. And when you think about it in terms of percent of GDP,
I mean, with that logic, you might as well print enough to give everybody $1 million, because it's not going to change anything, and everybody should be a millionaire.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point in time, dilution is going to. I mean, when the scales do tip, and they definitely will, you can't just blindly continue to print money and expect no consequences. I mean, obviously, it's happening now, but at some point in time, there will be a tipping point, and that all this paper that they printed out of thin air needs to be accounted for in some way, shape, or form. And you can't just, otherwise it's deficits don't matter. You might as well just print enough money for everybody to be rich.
Everybody else also printed a lot of their own currencies.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't see a bigger impact.
Not as much as the U.S. I mean, U.S. Took it to another level. I mean, was it $22 trillion that they printed or something? I forget what it was. It was something outrageous.
Right. No, it was crazy amounts. I mean, Australia definitely printed a bit. So Europe definitely printed a bit. And that's why we don't see a large drop. And to tell the truth, it's sad looking at it from Australia. Looking at it from Australia, if you're kind of heavy in US dollars, which I am. So going through my USD portfolio.
You're breaking up a little bit, but I mean, at the end of the day, I think that all these countries, if you just, it just proves the point of Bitcoin and crypto, having a finite supply, that as you start seeing demand and utility get better and better, I'm super bullish on the whole space. So.
Yeah. And another thing is that if we look at the US debt to GDP ratio, right now, as of Q2, we're like at 135%. That is not that much when you compare to like other, at least like other countries, especially emerging economies, they run all the time like above 150. And also keep in mind that our second quarter GDP went down, 30 or 40%, I forget how much it was. So once we get back from that dip, once the economy recovers, that 135, just by growth in GDP, we're gonna be back probably just below 100. So it definitely was a lot of printing, but I think we can kind of like grow ourselves out of it. So I'm not very concerned yet about inflation with respect to the dollars.
Yeah, basically what they're doing.
Like $4 trillion, yes, that's gonna start raising eyebrows. But for now, I think it's a lot, but like I think as Sergey mentioned, like everybody did it.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's you're going to have to. I mean, the impact to the tax base is going to be years, so that the printing will continue. At some point in time, I think that it's almost like a Ponzi scheme. Dilute your stock down, and then buy it back for 10 cents on the dollar every time that you dilute it down. So it's so basically, if you look at the power of the dollar, in 1933 versus today, basically that's what it is. It's just a global Ponzi scheme of all these countries having no intentions of paying off their debt. They just want to print more money and dilute what their dollars are worth and pay it back with new dollars. It's kind of crazy.
So I
mean that's the whole case for crypto, though, right? I mean that these people are that they're uncontrollable, and they can't stop printing money. So if the whole world keeps printing money and there's a finite supply, we should be in good shape.
Actually, like on that side, I think that the election potential results as they look right now, which means right now it looks like Biden's going to win, but Republicans are going to keep the Senate. That actually may look good for the dollar in terms of debt, because no matter how much stimulus Biden wants to give, now Republicans are going to be like, nope, we're back to fiscal austerity. Like, we're not going to like inflate the debt. So I think that's probably good. Yeah.
And unless he's unless he wants to do like Trump and just rule by executive order.
Oh, yeah. I mean, his pen's gonna be on fire for early next year. We'll see.
Yeah.
And another point. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No?
Sorry, yeah. Say it again.
There's going to be a lot of rolling back of executive orders, will there not be?
Yes.
Oh, definitely. At least all the environmental stuff and a few of the things that were just completely against the Democrats grain,
at least
that will be rolled back.
Big winner. So that's real fun, right? And all the immigrants. So, but yeah, it's amazing what's happening. And as I mentioned to you before we started, it's going to be like I wouldn't be able to name the ages of U.S. presidents, but I would say the next election, Biden will probably be on a very, very high limit of his age limit.
He's one of the oldest ones. He's 78, and I think Trump is like 74. But Biden made it clear that he's going to be a transition president. He's got no intention of getting reelected. Yeah.
Mm. So that's an interesting scenario.
Yeah.
Tell you the truth, I put money on Donald Trump, and unfortunately, it looks like I'm going to lose those.
Well, that's our bet on those casinos.
I think the real pressure on the U.S. market is that there's so many countries in Europe and Asia, especially that countries that have evolved law and and guidance for these sectors of the market. So as they start seeing that money's going to be moving overseas to be investing in these things, in these types of investment vehicles, that they'll start to the big banks will start offering them, and then they'll figure out a way to charge extra commission for that, I'm sure, or they'll start their own ETFs or something, or pools.
Yeah, and actually going into the Dennis, you mentioned PayPal and how PayPal's coming into the picture, and also a few 2-3 months ago we had MicroStrategy just put in what I would characterize as an irresponsible amount of money into Bitcoin, because that's just not their core business. And if I was an investor in MicroStrategy, I want to have my risk separated by my own risk buckets. I don't need a company that does business intelligence to suddenly like bucket my technology risk with my crypto market risk. But that aside, I agree there's definitely a lot of that creates good, call it good karma for crypto, and more companies are going to think, hey, this makes sense, and they may be buying. But PayPal itself, in a vacuum, and nothing happens in a vacuum, so but just the caveat. In a vacuum, if PayPal starts essentially allowing businesses to take Bitcoin, that should be negative pressure for the price, because the only people that are going to be spending money, that they're going to spend in Bitcoin on purchasers, are the hodlers, people that actually have that Bitcoin. Somebody like me, for example, I'm not going to go buy Bitcoin to go buy something. No, I'm going to use the dollars because I earn in dollars and I spend in dollars. So if anything, if PayPal is actually, it reaches enough critical mass on their Bitcoin operations, that should be negative for the price of Bitcoin, because that would give more opportunity for Bitcoin holders to sell their Bitcoin for items or purchases or activities, whatever.
And
well, it's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, what is the story with Silk Road wrote $1 billion?
Well, isn't it the U.S. government created it, or was it a fake?
Oh, it's like it's fake.
There's a lot of speculation on that story. What I heard is that
how is it for the crypto industry? And what is the prediction? What's going on?
I mean, Silk Road, I don't think it's $1 billion that moved, and that's a lot. And some people are speculating that it was the U.S. government, and other people are speculating that the file for this wallet had been circulating online for a while, so they think that somebody eventually cracked it. The other thing that I
That's
read, I think was on Cointelegraph, was that the owner of the wallet tried to move it and got hacked and screwed up. So we don't know. But overall, I don't think this is going to affect the market, because there's already enough bad press for crypto in terms of like, oh, like money laundering or something. But this is kind of like some old wallet from years ago. Like, it's a lot of money, but I mean, like, we have all these big banks that also get a bunch of like AML fines. So I don't know. It shouldn't. And also, this happened right when the market was rallying. I think it's gonna be buried. It's not gonna be a big deal. But that's just my take.
Well, yeah, the market didn't seem to react to that. Plus, you gotta think, you got chain analysis, we got Crystal, we got everyone looking after that, and they're marked already. So it will not be a quick liquidation of those funds if somebody is liquidating them. So,
Yeah.
like, you really kind of mix them up real good to pass. So it'll be a long process, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, since we're mentioning now, kind of like the AML and stuff, there was an editorial. I think it was in Cointelegraph, on essentially like calling out Coinbase's chain analysis, and also chain analysis for enabling governments to be able to violate the privacy of people that transacted in these coins. No, there's no violation of privacy. You're buying a cryptocurrency that exists in a public blockchain. If you didn't expect that at some point that could be somehow analyzed to track it back to you, that's your fault. I think Chainalysis is doing like a perfectly good business model. Cipher Trades and all these companies, they're just doing what people just didn't expect. Just because a privacy coin claims that they're unhackable, that's not to blame for Chainalysis. That's to blame for the users to think that, hey, I am, if I use Monero, I'm never gonna get traced. Well, sorry, that's just not the case. And it's literally a public blockchain. At some point, if not now, maybe 10 years from now, people are gonna figure it out.
Well, it's
Just,
you gotta
yeah.
we in terms of the untraceable. I mean, that's a myth. It depends who is looking. If it's your if it's your spouse that's disgruntled looking at trying to find your wallets, then it's one thing. But if it's the strength of you at the FBI, then I'm sure they'll be able to find whose wallet it is at like in a heartbeat. So the idea here is to remain conspicuous enough, or inconspicuous enough rather, to remain conspicuous enough so you don't attract the attention of the people who can actually trace everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I just think like you don't blame the people doing the analysis. You should blame the users. And there was an analysis I saw. I mean, this is old already. This is probably like from a year and a half ago, that it actually claimed that in the US for dark activities, Monero was the currency of choice. But then in Eastern Europe and Russia, the currency of choice was actually Litecoin, just because the governments were not really tracing. But I mean, that was 2018. It may be the case that now the governments will care about it. But then all those people that were trading on, doing illegal activities on Litecoin, if suddenly like Russia and other Eastern Europe governments start caring, I mean, they're going to have all their business aired out. Just like it happened with everybody that thought that Bitcoin was so secretive back in 2014, and now Silk Road's out in the open.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's the evolution of technology. I mean, if chain analysis doesn't do it, somebody else will do it. But at the end of the day, it's just the evolution of technology, and the more transparency, the better, is what we say, right? It's the biggest problem with crypto has been all the scams, and the more that we can weed out these bad actors, the better off we're going to be.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, like going back to the news from this past week or so, there was South Korea announced that on their Special Payments Act, they may potentially ban some what they call dark coins. Dark coins are just the privacy coins. These would be starting in March of next year. So now a lot of people are thinking that coins like Monero, Dash, and Zcash are going to be banned from all the South Korean exchanges. So I mean, that's definitely negative price pressure for those coins. And it may be the case that other governments start pressuring exchanges to say like, hey, we don't want this because these coins you cannot really track for AMO purposes. So who knows? It's happening in South Korea. Who knows if it's gonna like have legs and move elsewhere? But it's just something to keep an eye out if you happen to be having a large allocation to these coins.
Very interesting. Yeah, I can't wait to be able to travel back to Asia. It's been a while.
Well,
Russia.
travel
I
in
go
general.
What was that, Sergey?
Go to Russia. I've got some Litecoins to spend.
Too funny.
I don't. I actually sold my Litecoins in favor of BTC. It seems to be right on time, so it's good.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
But
And
but it's amazing what's happening in US. So I guess we have a consensus in the group here that Biden is the next president.
Yeah, I mean, without Bill Barr taking over the Justice Department and creating a bunch of false stuff, I think that Biden sanity will reign again.
Yeah.
And Biden will be elected.
It's so funny. I mean, it's said that it's actually the truth that you had 4 years of just you could.
Oh my God!
It was actually
the guy never worked. He was just on TV, Twitter, or watching TV. I mean, that's waiting for the next information on Twitter. It was just crazy. Not only that, but half the country hates each other now. I mean, he made America hate again.
Hey guys, and how the blockchain can change the election and like do something new for the voting and for the election.
No, I mean, I think that would be unbelievable, especially that because it would be 100% transparent, accountable, and that we're getting a lot of the younger folks that understand blockchain that are starting to get active in the election process. So that would be amazing. It would take all the questions out about the validity of an election.
Well, that'll never happen. I mean, how else would people produce?
That's a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
in Australia, actually, they had a science party in I think the last election of some level of government. They had a science party, and they had a candidate that was a blockchain candidate, right? And I mean, needless to say, that was actually voted way down.
Yeah.
So
I think the issue with voting on the blockchain, I agree the newer generations are more used to it. There's always the risk of getting hacked and all this. If you understand the technology thoroughly, it can definitely be implemented in a way that it's as flawless, as transparent as you want. But in terms of gaining the trust of the people in general, that's the part where I'm not sure. I think people still trust paper, the paper ballots in the mail, and even that is now been called into question.
Yeah, true.
Just going into the booth and pulling the lever is like I don't know. It's very hard to do large scale fraud that way. Once you digitalize the elections, you're opening the door to potential large scale fraud if there's a hole. There shouldn't, but if.
In US, do you use pencils or pens to vote?
Pens.
Because in Australia they use pencils, and they use pencils almost exclusively. And it always was crazy to me how that happened and why. I mean, their argument is obviously, well, it's a lot cheaper to use pencil, but then there is another argument that pencil is it can be corrected a little bit if need be.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, there's two things. There's two areas that you don't want transparency in if you're in control: politics and banking.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. That's why you're struggling with those two.
Yeah, guys, what is the stock market reaction after the election? What is your ideas?
Well, I mean, I can give you my take. I mean, obviously,
what
is getting closer.
What is your advices for the investors actually? Dennis?
I would be careful. I mean, I think we're going to see another spike here only because that you're going to see another round of stimulus that will probably be that will be done if it's not before Trump leaves. It'll come immediately after that because there are a lot of people in the United States that are either out of work or they're working a lot less hours, and I mean it's a nightmare for them. So you're going to see a big tranche of cash. What everybody's counting on is because of COVID that there has been within the people that were unaffected by work, they didn't have a chance to spend their money. So they're sitting on gobs of capital. They say it's, I think it's up to a couple of $1 trillion in buying power. So I think that's the bet here is, but I think that this all comes cascading down. I think that the stock market will peak here within the next quarter or two, and then there's going to be hell to pay because you can't have $1 trillion companies trading at 80 and 100 times earnings.
Yeah.
I mean, that's forecasting that they're going to be an $8 trillion company within 3 or 4 years or something. I mean, that's based upon those kind of multiples.
Interesting.
Yeah, like it's when I see those valuations, I just realize that people are just there's two types of people. First, you have the retail investors that just don't know better, and they're like, "Ooh, Tesla is going up, and Amazon's going up, and I'm gonna buy it." I mean, that's a crowd from Robinhood that decided to buy.
And I'm a genius. They're all going up.
Yeah.
Look at all I'm doing
exactly.
is making money.
That's a crowd that invested in Hertz after it declared bankruptcy. That is the type of like retail money for not. I mean, I'm being polite. It's really dumb money chasing after these things. And then there are actually the institutional investors that are willing to invest in these companies, not because it's a value investment, but because they know that it's still a growth company that is going to like keep growing, not to the point where, as you mentioned, getting to 8 trillion, but essentially they're just jumping on the trend, and they know that people are going to keep doing that because, and again, going back to being the shittiest house in a bad neighborhood, there's nowhere else to park cash. And right now, with interest rates so low, how else are all these pension funds get the 5% or so hurdle rate that they need? So they're all playing together until the music stops. But in the meantime, they're gonna keep.
Yeah, I mean that's good. I mean that's exactly what I was going to say. It's it's all momentum investing. It has nothing to do with value in any way, shape, or form. And when the music stops, there's going to be. I mean, there's going to be a lot of chairs missing, and there's going to be a lot of people standing there holding the bag because once you get some of these whales to start unloading, because if they're starting to see the negative effects of this, then you're going to see the cascading down. That it's going to be the domino effect or snowball effect, and buying leads to more buying, selling leads to more selling. We haven't seen the aggressive selling yet, but it's definitely going to happen. I mean, reality will set in.
And I think another factor that has driven the market to this, let's call it esoteric levels, is the fact that during the pandemic, a lot of the tech companies, all the FANG stocks like Facebook, Amazon, Google, etc., they actually did very well during the pandemic because Amazon was selling a lot, like Facebook and Google. Of course, everybody's home, so like the advertising market's like still booming. So all these tech companies are doing great. And because they're also the largest ones, like Apple, for example, they're propping up the market. So the moment that Amazon goes up, it brings up the Nasdaq index, and then people think,
I mean, not only that, but they become more and more confident that they're going to run all the small and medium-sized companies out of the business and take more market share. I mean, they have unlimited amounts of cash to do that. So it's the perfect storm if you're unbelievably rich. I mean, you're sitting on billions of dollars.
Agreed.
By the way, while we were in the past hour, I think it went up like $500. So we already scratching. So that's pretty cool. We should talk a lot more.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. And what is the next step for the millennial investors? What is your advice?
I mean, when you're young, you take risks. I mean, that's when you're young. I mean, you get you know, you have to figure, I mean, obviously you need to know what you need to, at least if you're going to make investments, you have to do the research, at least try to find some sectors of the market that you're interested in, and then you can start doing some research down. Just following.
They have actually Robinhood application.
Yeah, Robinhood is, you know, basically, yeah. I mean, that's the millennial Goldman Sachs.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean,
Really great storytelling. Yeah. Yeah, but what's going on with crypto? What is your advice for the Bitcoin at the end of the year? And what is it?
in a year, I think I think we'll probably end up around 17,000, somewhere around there. I think that the scarcity factor, and as the pressure is building, you know, between the haves and have-nots out there, and we're really going to start seeing that, you know, I mean, the richest of the rich got unbelievably richer during COVID, and now you have 70% of the population here in the United States that doesn't have over $1,000 in savings. So so they're living literally paycheck to paycheck. So it's I think that you know, there's you know, it's when you go into crypto, though, I mean, that is the safe haven that we've been screaming it for years, and now we're actually seeing that, you know, the utility and scarcity of crypto is going to be critically important going forward. That's my 2 cents at least.
Okay.
I agree.
Daniel, Sergey.
Well, you know, like I wanna be I'm always the more optimistic one. I believe that we'll see an all-time high before New Year, and then a correction like we used to see, and that will settle around 16, 17, I reckon, which is exactly what Dennis said. So yeah, happy days.
Well,
Yeah,
good times are here.
I echo that. I think like we've seen this year over year, where like the market just runs up right till the end of the year, and then there's a correction like either right before or like early in the year. That said, just the usual legal disclaimer: none of what we've all said in here is any legal advice. And
We're not.
Be taken.
I am not a licensed broker, and
yeah,
you know, you take your chances with the rest of us.
I think
well, even if,
like
people could still lose money with you, and I think that's what they get the license for. So they advise them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they call them brokers because they're broker than their clients.
So in terms of like some generic advice just for the millennials, definitely, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have a small allocation to like a new asset class like cryptocurrencies. But the main thing is understand diversification and understand what correlation means. I've seen some young people that think that, oh, I'm buying the top 20 coins, I am so diversified. No, you're within a single asset class. The whole asset class may rise and fall together. Make sure that you're invested in others. So like nowadays we have so many ETFs, you could very easily invest a little in emerging markets, a little in corporate bonds, a little in even treasury. Like we have ETFs for everything. If you want to diversify across asset classes. And for those that just want to get exposure to crypto, Bitcoin gives you that exposure to crypto, period.
Yeah.
Like everything else trades at a multiple of volatility of Bitcoin. So if you just want exposure to the cryptocurrency, don't spend extra effort and fees on getting the top 20 currencies. Just buy Bitcoin. And if you want something a little more volatile, then maybe like go down to the top 5 coins or something, but don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah, and I would say also don't put all your money in at once. You know, put it in over time. You know, make sure that because that tends to work the best. And you know, I mean, spread it over 6 months depending on how much you have, and just put it in every week or every month or whatever you want. But trying to time the market is an exercise in madness. It's and the more you try to do it, the more you're probably buying the top.
No, that's right. Yeah. So but it's always prudent to, if you're coming into anything, not just Bitcoin or anything that has price movements, then you probably shouldn't buy it in one hit. You should probably, I don't know, separate your holding in 4 to 20 parts or something and
Yeah.
buy every week just to average smooth the entry price.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
See,
It spreads the risk out quite a bit.
Yeah, guys. Okay, guys, thank you for this
Thank you
live
so
stream.
much. Hey,
Was
guys, nice to meet you.
so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then good to see you again.
yes. And thank you.
For today in Australia, for tomorrow in New York.
All right. Time for dinner.
Yes.
Good
All right.
night.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good
Bye now.
night.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you.